back, everybody, to Brian Roberts Inspired. I'm super excited for our special guest today. What we're trying to do is bring ordinary people with extraordinary stories and extraordinary adventures that have impactful and inspirational tones to it. And I'm super excited to have Sean Swarner on today. Sean is probably he is one of the most inspirational people. He was actually voted one of the top 8 most inspirational people on the planet. And his story is absolutely incredible. I can't wait to dive in and get into it today. A little bit about Sean. He is one of 55 people, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, one of 55 people to ever do this. So he has completed being on 7 continents at 7 summits, the 7 highest mountains in the world, including going to the North Pole, going to the South Pole. One of 55 people ever to do this, and the only 2-time cancer survivor to do it. And he did all of this with 1 lung. So Sean, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, man. And you're absolutely right. I actually am the only cancer survivor. I just happen to have had 2 cancers. And if you add in the World Championship Ironman triathlon, there's 1 person who's done all that.
That's incredible. It's fascinating. Well, take us back to kind of how all this started. And I will tell you, I watched your documentary, True North, and what an inspiring documentary. I know it's critically acclaimed. It's amazing. If you haven't watched that, you should. I got to tell you a couple snippets that I took from that. When somebody goes through cancer, you think of the patient and you think of the individual. And what was amazing to me was actually hearing your mom, Terry, and your father, Scott, speak to their experience and kind of viewing what you went through as their 13-year-old, and then again later as their 16-year-old, and even hearing Seth, your brother, talk about his experiences of, watching you and experiencing you going through that moment. But if you can, for those listening that haven't heard your story or aren't familiar with your story, can you take us back to kind of the very beginning, the genesis of what kind of inspired you to be who you are today?
Absolutely. And before we even begin, cancer is not an individual disease. You're right. My mom went through it. My dad went through it with me. My brother went through it with me, the whole family. And even on the expeditions, I have never made it to the top of any significant mountain alone. I've always had a team, and it started with the team of my family helping me through the 2 cancers. And if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be here. They were constantly injecting me with hope. But my whole story, I guess, we don't want to go back to when my parents got together and, 9 months later, done. Sean comes rolling out. We probably don't want to go back that far, but we'll start at 13. And that's when my entire life changed. I mean, I was a normal kid growing up in Midwest Ohio. My backyard was a bean field or a cornfield, depending on the season. And, we would go back in the cornfields, how they're in the rows. We would just bend them over and make our forts when we were little kids. I'm sure it really ticked off the farmers, but, we had a great time. And we were really creative, and we would TP the coaches' houses. I ran cross country, track, you name it. And I guess that was before the vid hit and toilet paper was worth its weight in gold. We would throw them up in the trees, TP the houses. But I very vividly remember the day my life changed when I was playing basketball. I just went out for a regular layup, and I came down and it thwacked on the floor, and I could hear the tendons and the ligaments just kind of snapping. Almost like the sound when you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you're kind of tearing into the leg there. And they initially thought I had pneumonia and stuck me in the local hospital. Like I said, I grew up in Willard, Ohio, farm town. They didn't have the technology to diagnose what I really had. And it's incredibly difficult to cure cancer by sucking on a nebulizer. So I wasn't getting any better. But at 13, at 8th grade, and I, in my mind, I was thinking, I'm in the hospital. This is awesome. And from the perspective of, I'm getting attention from the cheerleaders. I'm getting attention from all these people. They're sending balloons and cards. This is fantastic. But little did I know that I was eventually going to be diagnosed with advanced stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma And I remember the doctors told my parents that your firstborn son has 3 months to live.
Wow.
Yeah, you have kids. I mean, can you imagine a doctor coming in and saying, "Look, your firstborn got 3 months left."
I mean, I can't imagine that. And, through the documentary, the one thing that really resonated with me that your mom had stated, she thought about preparing for that moment on how to talk to you, a 13-year-old, about what you had just heard. And, she had mentioned, I just said, don't ever quit, just keep going. And later on the documentary, she referenced, I don't look back. She goes, I don't look back. I just keep looking forward. What was that like for her and your father? Do you remember in that moment when they had to share that news with you, and how they were able to keep you positive as a 13-year-old when your entire world probably was getting ready to be turned upside down?
I think looking back at it now, being 46 years old, and then the first cancer was 13. I think it was probably more difficult on them than it was on me, just because there was nothing they could do, really. They couldn't fight the cancer for me. They couldn't get in my brain and help me with the survivor attitude or that winning attitude. But they did instill in me the idea and the concept from even when I was in athletics. I had been a competitive swimmer from 5 until after college. But one of the things they definitely instilled in me was, whenever I touched the wall swimming, and my stroke was breaststroke, right? And that's why I'm kind of hunched up. And whenever I come in and touch the wall, mom and dad would always be there, and they would pull me out. First question they would ask me was, did you do your best? Not, hey, why didn't you win? Or why didn't you do this? Because eventually they taught me that I never had to be the best. I had to be my best and make today better than yesterday. So every time I got in the water, I would try to beat the time that I had the last time I was in the water. And that way I would just constantly keep getting better and better and better. And I still have records. I was undefeated in the swim team, the summer swim league. And I still have records from, I think, 86 and 87.
Wow.
That may never be broken. I had my sights on the Olympics, but they cut into my side over here with the cancers. Now I have one lat muscle just swim in a circle. So that dream's gone. But I think it wasn't one thing in particular. It was just the notion and the idea of focusing on each day at a time. Because we had no idea what was going to happen. Mom and dad had no clue. Looking back on it, I don't know how they dealt with it. But it was really getting in here more than anything else, and always having hope. And it wasn't focusing on, and I remember this very vividly. I was 60 pounds overweight, in the shower, on my hands and knees, weeping, just sobbing, 13 years old. And I was pulling chunks of hair out of the drain so the water could go down. I can remember just being, like I said, on my hands and knees, and I could feel the water rising up because it wasn't going down, because all of my hair had come out while I was in the shower.
Wow.
And I remember thinking of what my friends were probably doing while they were getting ready for school the same day I was. Back then, it was the most popular thing, I think, was the Reebok pump. You remember that shoe?
Oh yeah.
So
well,
so my friend, across the street, a couple of houses down, he was probably counting 26, 27, 28, perfect. And he was pegging his pants, and he was worried about being popular. Flashback to that 60-pound overweight 13-year-old weeping. I didn't care about that stuff. I mean, there were nights I literally went to bed terrified to close my eyes because I didn't know if they would ever open again.
wow.
So I didn't have a tomorrow. But also in that shower scene I just mentioned, I made a conscious choice to not focus on not dying. I focused on living. Because I can only imagine, looking back at it, how my life would have, if I would have even had a life, if I kept focusing and telling myself, don't die, don't die. I focused on telling myself to live. I mean, people who get into businesses, they don't go into businesses corporations thinking to themselves, hey, don't lose money.
Right. Right.
You think that you want to make money, you want to make a difference. Because I learned I learned a long time ago that I didn't want to, I wanted to go after what I wanted, not the avoidance of what I didn't want.
Mm.
Because wherever your focus is, wherever your attention is what you're going to get. Same thing as sliding in a car where you live. You drive in a car, hit some ice. What do they teach you? If you're staring at a telephone pole, that's where you're going to go. Focus your gaze on where you want to be drawn. And I learned that at 13 years old.
I love that. And I think, what was the progression from diagnosis to, you're healed, you're out of the clear, when you were 13 years old? Because I want to get to the next part, which I think is, you talk about one of the most mentally tough things anybody in their life has to go through. I want to go through that, but what was the progression from 13 before, like deep breaths? Okay, we beat it.
13, first cancer, 3 months to live, advanced stage Hodgkin's lymphoma. I went through about a year and a half of chemotherapy.
Okay.
Lost all the hair in my body, gained 60 pounds, lost pretty much everything. My life was on pause. It was over. And then I was placed in remission. And then I started working my way back to being quote unquote normal. So when I was going in for checkup for the first cancer, that's actually when they found the second cancer. So if you look at it from the perspective of, like, I guess the world's worst good luck, I'd probably be dead if I didn't have that knee surgery. I had no night sweats, no swollen lymph glands, nothing.
Wow.
So that knee injury, because of that knee injury, they found the cancer, the first one. Because of the first cancer, they found the second cancer. And the two are completely unrelated. They're primary cancers. And no one's ever had those two before. And this is crazy. The chances of me surviving both the Hodgkin's lymphoma and Askin sarcoma is equivalent to you winning the lottery 4 times in a row with the same numbers.
That's incredible. I mean, that speaks volumes to why I'm so excited to get to your message of hope and what you've done as a miracle yourself to be able to share that hope and do the things that you're doing with others. But if you don't mind, share the statistics of the Askin sarcoma, because that, when I heard you share that in the documentary, I was flabbergasted. The survival rate of that, and then having found that out after you had just got through the first phase.
So with Askin's, it's such a rare cancer that I don't know. I think I may have mentioned, I forgot already, but I'm the only person to ever have those two. The doctors didn't know what was going to happen. And with Askin's sarcoma, the prognosis normally is 6%. So if you have 100 people with this disease, keeping in mind that 3 out of 1 million get it, 94 die.
Wow.
And I've been in touch with a number of people who have had Askin sarcoma before. I have yet to meet a survivor. So I mean, you're looking at a living, breathing, walking miracle, hands down.
Oh, you are. And I think the coolest thing about that, Sean, is what you've chose to do with your life beyond, being that miracle and finding out, man, I've passed, I've made it. Can you talk with us about what are the things you're doing now, what you're involved with, the impact that you're making with others, and the inspiration that you carry forward, especially the whole premise around the flag and what you did with the flag of hope? I think that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Well, I mean, going through anything traumatic, you can come out on the other side a victim or a victor. You can. Here's the thing: you can choose how you want to come out. You can choose to be the victor, or you can choose to be the victim. You can think that the world's against you, or you can see it as a new lease on life. And I think it's based on personal core values. And one of my personal core values is family. Another one is personal growth. Another one is charity. And one of the reasons that I think I summited Everest with one functioning lung was because I tapped into my purpose, which is meaning, right? So I had a deeper meaning for being on the mountain. And it wasn't about me. It was about getting people touched by cancer to the top of the world. And that's actually where the idea of the flag came from. The first mountain I climbed was Everest, and then the rest of the 6, I figured they'd be downhill after that. But when I got to the top, I had a flag that was about 2 feet by a foot, and it had names of people touched by cancer. And at the bottom, it said, "Dedicated to all those affected by cancer in this small world, keep climbing." It was kind of an homage for everyone who's ever been touched by the disease.
Love it.
And it was folded up in my chest pocket the whole time I was on the mountain. And it was close to my heart as a constant reminder of why I was on the mountain, my inspiration, essentially, my hope. And when I got to the top of the world, I wrapped it around the top of Mount Everest. They were the ones who got me up there. And I did the same thing to each one of the highest peaks on the continent. I did the same thing to the South Pole, and I did the same thing to the North Pole. But the flag you're talking about was when we got to the North Pole, it was 6.5 feet by 4 feet, maybe. Yeah. Huge, thousands and thousands of names of people touched by cancer. And they pushed me all the way. Every time I do something, I have a higher meaning. I have a deeper purpose. Because again, purpose equals passion. And that is where you get your motivation from.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the fact that you were inclusive of others on the whole mission. And again, I think it bears importance to mention the Explorers Grand Slam. So I briefly described it on the way in to our show, but where did that come from? How did you even imagine doing that? Here you are, a guy with one lung, right? You've been through hell and back, and now you're going to do this Explorers Grand Slam, one of 55 people in the world. Where did this come from? How did this begin?
I honestly, I have no idea, because I think it sounds like a Denny's breakfast platter. like I was going to finish it and get to the North Pole is going to be a side of hash browns and eggs waiting for me. Whoever named that thing, they need to come up with something else. But I started off with Everest, finished Everest. And then I heard of something called the Seven Summits, highest mountain in every continent. Did that, check that off. And then I thought, okay, well, let's keep going. There's a South Pole, North Pole. And oh, by the way, that's called the Explorers Grand Slam. And I wanted to tick that off as well, for maybe a couple reasons. One, maybe to prove to myself I'm still alive. And another, which is a more deeper meaning, to give back and give people hope.
I love that. And I think in our brief discussion several months back, you talked about paying it forward, and something that's exceptionally cool with new expeditions that you do. Can you describe what that is and the importance of that in your life and what it means for others to join you in that?
You mean because right behind me, the Kilimanjaro trip?
Absolutely, 100%.
So the Cancer Climber Association takes a group every year. Anyone can go, but the organization, the charity itself, pays for a survivor's trip, all costs covered. Then it's the responsibility of that survivor to raise funds for next year's survivor, paying it forward, keeping it in the cancer family. And we give anybody who's on the trip kind of a mock hope flag that's from the True North film you mentioned. And while we're up on the mountain, we're writing names on the flag, and we're getting messages from the satellite, my satellite phone, people who want to add others touched by cancer to the flag, which that's our main fundraiser. So it's helping other people tap into their deeper and higher purpose. It's not about the challenge. One of the things I get most out of getting to the top of Kilimanjaro, and this will be my 21st trip. It's not about the challenge anymore. It's not about the mountain. It's about, and this is going to sound awful, but I love getting people to the top and seeing them cry. Mm. And it's tears. It's emotional tears. It's not sadness. And everybody is up there. The waterworks are going. We're completely emotional. We're stripped back. We're bare. All the layers have been peeled back, and you're looking into someone's soul at that point. And we're all hugging each other, and it never fails. Somebody will look at me and say, "Thank you for getting me here," and I'll respond immediately by saying, "I didn't get you here." And I think in that instant, their life changes, because they just stepped across that line of fear, out of their comfort zone, and into something they weren't sure they could do. And when you can change someone's life and empower them to do something like that, I think the way you can help make someone feel, that's the greatest currency I can ever think of.
So powerful, man. What What would you say to somebody that's listening right now that's going through a massive trial, tribulation, could be health related, could be family related, job related? What would you tell them given the experiences that you've had and the successes that you've had to pull yourself through some tremendous obstacles? What would you share with that person that's listening right now?
Well, first is what you're, because there's so many different things I could think of. Let's say somebody's going through cancer. Let's say somebody's going through domestic abuse. Any trial tribulation. First of all, is it worth it? Because so many people hold on and they're afraid to let go of what they have to pursue the possibility of what could be. Because it's comfortable for them. It's what they know. It's what they're familiar with.
Yep.
So another thing is understand why you're doing what you're doing. So I put together a core values assessment that I take every 3 weeks, and I measure on a scale how I'm improving every 3 weeks. And if you know why you're doing what you're doing in that deeper purpose, you can endure anything. So if it's somebody going through cancer, or somebody who's going up a mountain, or somebody who's going towards whatever goal it might be, if you know here and here in your heart and your mind that you're going to make it, before you even begin, you have to have an emotional attachment on the end result, because for you, then it becomes real. If it's real in your mind's eye and in your heart, in your soul, and your feelings, no matter what you're going through right now, it's only temporary, and you can handle whatever gets in your way. So basically, with the knowledge of what's within you is stronger than what's in your way.
Mm. I love that. And having an emotional attachment to the end result. I think it's massive. I mean, it reminds me of you having that flag pressed against your heart, pushing you, right, purposefully up that mountain.
And having a mantra. People ask me that. I'm sorry to cut you off. I get passionate about this.
Fire away.
People need to have a mantra. And it's like, say you're running and you're telling yourself, don't quit. Don't quit. You're going to stop because your brain doesn't hear the don't part. When I'm on the mountains, I literally tell myself every single step. With my right step, I tell myself the higher I go. Left step, I say the stronger I get. The higher I go, the stronger I get. The higher I go, the stronger I get. And if I'm going through life, if I'm going up Kilimanjaro and I'm taking 500,000 steps, that's 500,000 positive images that go through my mind. As opposed to don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. No, you just hear stop, stop. The higher I go, the stronger I get. Pick a mantra that works for you that's positive. You're going to the refrigerator. Put up a Post-it note. Say you're on a diet or you want to eat healthy. Don't put down on a Post-it note, don't eat the cookie. Because again, you're drawing yourself over there. Write down, eat the apple.
Love
So be drawn towards what you want, not the avoidance of what you don't.
I got one last question for you. Everything that you've done, everything that you've accomplished, what's next for you?
So, like, challenge-wise, I just recently got married. I heard that's pretty difficult.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. Pretty cool. That's a big deal.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we got married in February last year. But I mean, all joking aside, it's helping other people find it. It's two things. Go to thebighillchallenge.com. Okay. It's a 3-week challenge I put together, and every Wednesday I hop in there and personally guide people, helping them with their personal core values, mindfulness, and the compound effect. So over time, you can just alter your future in any direction you want. But the next biggest challenge is I'm looking for sponsorship to run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days.
Oh, wow. Fascinating. You cease to amaze me. That is incredible. Say that again. 7
marathons on 7 continents in 7 days.
Oh my gosh. Are you going to come up with a cooler name than the Grand Slam for that? What are you going to name this thing? Or has it been named already?
Some people call it the World Marathon.
Okay.
But with my background and the 777 and how fortunate I've been, I want to call it Jackpot.
Oh, I love it. Way cooler name. Way cooler. Well, Sean, I can't thank you enough for jumping on the show with us today, man. I was super pumped to see your face and see your smile and have you come on today after watching True North and really intimately understanding your story and the inspiration that you are and the impact that you're making. It's people like you in this world that we need more of, and we need to drink it up. Everybody needs a lift. Keep doing what you're doing. You're a super impressive individual, man. I wish you the best of luck.
Brian, I definitely appreciate it. The world needs more people like you to share stories and lift others up too. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you, brother. Have a good day.
You too.